This is the top 10 tips for policy story maps. I'm Jennifer Bell.
Diana Lavery.
And Diana, how long have you been at Esri?
About 16 months.
And what kind of policy maps have you made? Or what do you like about policy maps?
Oh, I really like how you can show where exactly intervention would be needed, where would be appropriate, where would you get the most bang for your buck, essentially. That would be a really good policy map. I do a lot on health and education and labor force stuff and vulnerable populations, so definitely the people side of policy. I know there's environmental and infrastructure as well.
Diana has a lot of great story maps to share with you guys today. I've been at Esri for about 4 years, and I didn't know what a policy map was until I started at Esri, and I've had the privilege to work with the City of LA, the Dolores Huerta Foundation, the Knight Foundation, activists in Southern California, and helping them create maps that make a change that can convince someone of their message to enact policy that can help the city or the people or the infrastructure. I specialize in public transportation. So let's begin. So as introductions, the outline, we're going to talk about what a policy map is. Anyone know what a policy map is or have a general idea? Okay, so you're in the right place. We're going to talk about what a policy map is. What about story maps? It's a little bit more popular. All right, so we'll show policy maps through story maps. We'll go over the top 10 tips, and then we'll show story map examples that are using those tips. And then Diana's going to build a story map at the end, so you get to see the interface, and she's going to talk about what she's thinking as she's building the story map. We'll go over resources and end with a Q&A.
All right, so what is a story map? I'm assuming by now it's Thursday in this conference. You guys have all at least seen a story map. Am I correct on that? Okay, has anyone built a story map? Lots of people. Awesome.
Great.
Good. So story maps in general are ways to combine maps with a narrative and some multimedia. You can add pictures, you can add charts and graphs and statistics. You can even add video if you'd like, and just combine it with your guided narrative and provide context for your maps. Because as clear as maps can be, we still need to convey the message that we're trying to get across in the map.
Yeah, and I hear a lot of people saying, there's so many different types of apps and web app builder and story maps. Which one do I use? So do you have any personal favorites or any recommendations?
Yeah, well, particularly for policy topics, I find that the Cascade story map and the story map journal work really well because those allow for quite a lot of text and pictures and charts. So some of the others, like Map Tour, it's a little bit more confined. It's all centered on the map mostly. But Cascade and Journal really do allow for you to present an entire argument, if you will, a position on the map that you're showcasing.
Yeah, and the map series is also another one of my personal favorites. It's the tabbed story map. So it all depends on the story you're trying to tell and the audience. So what is a policy map? Well, we can have a map of our data. But what takes it to the next level is when you look at that map and your eyes automatically see the area in the map where there's an opportunity to intervene or an opportunity for change or for action to see where something is going well or something is going not so well. The quote by Stephen Goldsmith, a policy map is a map where the opportunity to intervene is made clear. So we'll show what a policy map is through example, but this is a great general definition to get us started. So we're showing where's the greatest need, where should we invest our money, where are we losing money, who will benefit, who is out of compliance. So what do we mean by out of compliance?
If there's a policy that says each school district needs to have X number of nurses on staff at all times for a particular number of students. You can map number of nurses per student and make a really hard edge in your color choice. Maybe do an above and below of, okay, these schools in pink met that requirement. These schools in yellow need some work. So that would be an example of a compliance map.
That's great. So we'll show above and below style later. It's a really great style for policy maps. All right, so before we go into the top 10 tips, we'll show 2 examples of what we mean by policy map.
Okay, so here is a story map I did a while back for the topic of low birth weight, an increasing public health challenge in the United States. We define what low birth weight is, why it's a problem, and then some statistics. We've got this graph here. The CDC has set a target by 2020. They want only 7.8% of births to be considered low birth weight. And here's how we've been throughout the past 2 decades. Here's our map, and we're using text here actually to show that a high prevalence of low birth weight will be depicted in dark red in the map. Once it draws.
I was the one who was able to take the Ethernet cord, so I'm going to have very fast internet.
Oh, good.
You're on the
yeah, I'm definitely doing it wireless here. Perfect. So our text serves as legend almost here by saying, hey, the dark red is where the problem is. And also we've called out an area of importance. We were doing this for the governor of Nevada. He's put out an initiative about low birth weight, and so guess where he lives? Carson City, or at least that's where he works. So that's exactly why we chose to highlight that pop-up, but of course you can interrogate the data as you like. And then our legend comes up. This is what we were mentioning earlier in above and below style. We've got the national average, which is white, the same color as the base map. Below in gray, we're doing great. Red, we've got some work to do, we've got some opportunity there to move the needle. One thing that's related to low birth weight is preterm births. Again, we define that, and we've got a very similar map here, which you guys can look at your own. It's very similar. And then we've got implications for policy. How can we achieve that CDC goal that we've set as a nation? Well, we've got some policy options. One is evidence-based tobacco cessation programs. A lot of times, these tobacco cessation programs don't account for the fact that pregnant women can't take medications the same way that a man or a non-pregnant woman would be able to. Appropriate nutrition, there's a lot of opportunities there. Prenatal care, obviously, and all different types that we go into in detail here. And then we call attention to a really stark difference. This northwestern Louisiana area. The neighboring counties in Texas and Arkansas don't have the same prevalence of low birth weight that the counties just across the border seem to have. So we can actually take out the state boundaries here, and we would still see that very clear outline of Texas and Louisiana. So this is probably a state policy story right here. So the story map continues to explore that a little bit more. And Jen has another example of a really great story map.
So this story map we created for some activists in Southern California, they took this up to Sacramento to convince the representatives in California that they should allocate more judges to the 2 counties in Southern California, specifically Riverside and San Bernardino. So we start the story map with a compelling image that shows the scale, and then the courtroom in the background. And then we have a striking dark background with the colors that stand out. So if you don't have time to read it all, you look and see, oh, Riverside County currently has 76 judges. They need 122 according to the assessment done for the whole state. And so they're understaffed by 46 judges. Similarly, San Bernardino is understaffed by 48 judges. We have a quote from the report to the Judicial Council, makes the claim more authoritative. And then we have an instruction, click on the map below to view more information. So we see this is a web app builder embedded in a Cascade story map. So we have this chart that shows this striking difference between the assessed or additional judges needed for the San Bernardino and Riverside County compared to all the other counties in California. And then we have an accompanying map that works well with the chart. So a lot of times we start our policy maps with this striking graphic of a chart, like Diana showed, the increasing trend of preterm with low birth weight. And this one's using a chart in a web app builder. Another thing we can use for policy maps is starting with a huge infographic, 96% of something that's bad, something that's catching your eye. And then you can also use infographics. And in policy maps, we want to show why. Well, why does the IE need more judges? Well, there's a lot of people that are moving from the coast. There's a coastal migration in California occurring to the Inland Empire. So over the past 10 years, Riverside County experienced a 42% gain of over 600,000 people. So with more people, you need more judges. Another reason, high crime. So according to a commission report, San Bernardino City is the most dangerous city in California when it comes to crime, unemployment, poverty, high school graduation rate, low police budgets. So here we're appealing to the emotion of the reader. And then we always like to end our policy maps with a call to action. So this is a very short call to action. This particular one says, we encourage you to vote yes to authorize funds for additional judges. For more information, please contact Gordon Borns and Paulette Brown-Hines for more information. So those are 2 great examples of policy maps that highlight the tips that we would like to show. So the top 10 tips.
Can I ask, was that sent to the link sent to like all
the representatives?
Or was it made as a PowerPoint to not the PowerPoint?
Oh, to the people who need to see it. So actually, a lot of times when you go up to, the Capitol or you're talking to representatives, you only have a few minutes to talk to them. A lot of times you're not going to show a Cascade story map. You'll provide the link to them for them to look at later. What they did was they had their iPad and they brought this web app builder. So remember, I embedded the web app into the story map. This is the web app on its own. So they had their iPad or their mobile device, and you went to the person and said, look at this, isn't this striking? Do you have a few minutes for me to tell you what's going on in Southern California? So that's a really great question. A lot of times people don't have the time to look at a long story map, but we provide the additional link if you have time or you're interested to learn more, view this Cascade.
Yeah, particularly for staffers, the mayor himself or herself won't have time, but you can engage with people in their office more with the longer version of the story map.
Yeah, great question. All right, so these are the top 10 tips, and we will show them at the end as well. All right, so number 1, start with a captivating cover image or video. Include a memorable title that's short and sweet. Keep the text throughout the whole story map short as well. Less is more. And use compelling charts and statistics. Use well-designed maps, which we can show you later. Provide the text in the story map as your legend. You don't necessarily need to use a legend for all of your maps, and we'll show how that's done. And then notice in the cascade that Diana was showing, it was zooming into certain areas, pop-ups were showing. She's calling out areas of importance, like the border of Louisiana and Texas. And show trends over time. How has it changed? How did the population change in the Inland Empire from 2000 to 2010? Or how did this policy that we enacted 10 years ago affect the population? And then end with a call to action. And lastly, make it personal. Like we were talking about how San Bernardino City was the most dangerous city in California, talking about high school graduation rates and crime, so everyone can identify with that, and it's made more personal.
All right, so number 1 was start with a captivating cover image, or possibly even video. Through ArcGIS Online, when you're building your story maps, you actually have access to a service called Unsplash, which has a lot of very beautiful high-resolution images that we can go into in the demo. And you could use those as your cover or throughout the story map in general. But if you've got some really nice image that will hook your readers, that would be actually better than using a map at the very cover. They're going to get to the maps when they click your story map and see all the information that you're presenting. But in order to get that first click, research shows that it's actually better to start with an image instead of a map.
Yeah, this taxi cab terrain is a story map created by John Nelson, and he used Unsplash because it's publicly available. It's available for commercial use. We recommend that you attribute the photographer, but you don't necessarily have to. And what he did was he went into Photoshop and added these really neat radial pings coming out of the taxis. So you can take any of your images and enhance them a bit to make them stand out a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Second tip was to create a memorable title. It's almost like you're writing a headline. You want to make it somewhat catchy. A lot of these have alliterations going for them. River of Resilience and Home from the Hospital, Front Lines of Famine, Investing in Infrastructure. When you use that alliteration, it helps. A little bit of a play on words there with the Genesis of Exodus. I think that's a wonderful headline type title. So put a little bit of thought into the title and make it as catchy and memorable as appropriate for your needs.
The third tip is to keep the text throughout the story map short and sweet. I was one of the judges for the story map competition, and we saw a lot of great story maps, but some of them were like novels, and people don't have time to read. You know, we care about your words, but it's most important to pick the words that are going to matter, that are going to stick with people. This is an intro to a story map, and it has the logo. It has a large text, so if you're not going to read anything at all, read that the main point is there's an inequality that's holding people back. You know, it's catching people's attention. This other story map in the top middle uses large numbers that are eye-catching. The one on the top right uses bold to show the outline of the story map. And then the one on the bottom right is a great in-between text between your maps to provide more context. Is there anything you want to add to that? And number 4, include compelling charts and statistics. Whenever I see a graph like this, or like this one, I'm wondering, what is this showing? Or this infographic that shows the percent of people who are killed depending on if the car is going 20 miles per hour, 30, or 40, there's a significant increase in the danger of the pedestrian. Or New Orleans and Houston. So this is a really creative way to map change over time, but then you're also using the image of the city in the background to make it more personal.
Of course, the operative word in story map is map. So we want to always showcase clear, effective, and well-designed maps. Use color appropriately. Symbology has been a topic at a lot of the sessions that I've been attending and presenting at throughout this conference. These two in particular, I think, do a good job. The top one shows parcels highlighted in color and which parcels have access to transit. The second one shows counts and also predominance of different Asian populations in Los Angeles. And what was mentioned earlier is utilize your text as a legend. We've got one here of California school districts, and the text says gray districts depict one thing and red districts depict another. And that's actually said in the text itself in that exact same color as what's used in the map. And then the poverty education and living standards one in Africa shows what is the number one contributor there with that predominance map. And similarly to that bottom one, we've got different waves, different lines mapped in different colors, and you can see in the text exactly what those are talking about. It's really rare that someone who's just scrolling down will know to click to turn on a legend or even to look for a legend somewhere when they're used to reading. Their eyes are already reading your text, so use that text to highlight, okay, what am I expecting to see in this map, instead of expecting them to know the ins and outs.
Sorry. Number 7, call out areas of importance or interest. So like Diana showed Louisiana, she used that in the narrative section of the Cascade story map. There's another story map, this one talks about the opioid crisis in the United States, and it's using the Cascade story map that includes the immersive section. So with the immersive section, it's a guided narrative that helps the reader know where to zoom in. It automatically shows a pop-up. So these are things that we can set in the Cascade, and I'm not sure if you're going to show that. So Diana's going to show that on how to auto-zoom into areas of interest or importance, or call out areas with a pop-up. Number 8, visualize trends over time. So the top left map in green is a map that shows how malaria rates in children aged 2 to 10 in Africa have significantly decreased over time with the use of insecticide-treated mosquito nets and different diagnostic tests that they've implemented. So the areas in green are where there have been a decrease in malaria rates, and areas in purple there is an increase in malaria rates. So showing change over time is really important. The one on the bottom left is women in national politics. So has the representation of women increased in the country or decreased in parliament? And then the population change, which you saw earlier.
Number 9 is end with a call to action. And this, for policy maps, is very key, because if you've presented all the material that you have and you've convinced someone, hey, this is a problem, we should do something about this, give them that next step. What is the action that you want them to take? You've got to end with something for them to do, or at least know, how can I advance this policy that you've now convinced me is an issue that I should care about? And then finally, similar, is to make it personal. Number 10, why should I care? So that home from the hospital one says, hey, why is this a problem? And there's one about California vaccines that has a section called, "Why does this matter?" So this is really saying, okay, here you should care because ABC. Another way to make it personal is that bottom corner one is to have an image of a person. That's one technique to use to make it personal. And then that planting healthy air, hey, you can save money. That's always a good way to bring the point home and make it personal and say, hey, you should care because you can save money here.
Yeah, we have an elderly woman, we've got the environment, food, a kid, money. All we need is a picture of a puppy or something.
Right. Okay, so who's ready to build a story map together? Yeah. So here I am in my content folder here in ArcGIS Online. The same way that I would create a map, I'm just going to scroll down a little bit further and say create an app using a template. And it asks me, what do I want to do? I want to build a story map. So here are some really great web app templates that work well for story maps. We've shown 2 examples of Cascade, so we're going to stick with Cascade here. Create web app, excuse me. And the title, like I said, try to make it a little bit of a headline. Our title today is going to be Affordable but Vulnerable. Mobile homes in the US. Always include a tag to help you guys search throughout your content, and the tag I'm going to use is housing, and then you save it in your folder of choice. To add that captivating image, we'll click here. We can add it from our desktop. We can add it from our own Flickr account or Google Plus account, or that service I mentioned earlier, Unsplash. Let's search for mobile home park and see what we get.
And these are all really high-res, beautiful, quality professional images.
Right, and they are available for commercial use as well. We'll try trailer home park. And it's always good to try 1 or 2 different phrases and see what images come up so that you'll get the best image you can find. And I've actually pre-written the text for this, and I've made some web maps already because I've been working on a lot of housing characteristics topics and issues lately. So I've got some captivating statistics here that I want to put into my story map. I can add different types of sections. First, I'm going to add text and put those statistics. We've got 17.6 million Americans live in mobile homes. And the home value was strikingly different between mobile homes and all owned housing. 6.2% of the housing stock in the US is actually a mobile home. And over 25% of all mobile homes in the US are in just 3 states. So I'm keeping the text short and sweet. I can even break it up more if I want to. I can add a little image here that I've created in PowerPoint. So I'm going to add a media section and go back to that first tab, browse for the image on my desktop. Housing characteristics. And I made this little infographic in PowerPoint. All right, now I want to add my first map. I can do so as a media section or an immersive section. I'll show media first. It's going to ask me to browse to my map. I can look through my content, or you can actually search all of ArcGIS online and use any web map that you can find, especially one in the Living Atlas that's been reviewed. Feel free to use those in your story map as well. So here's the one I want, mobile homes as housing structures. It's going to ask me, do I want it in small, medium, or large? I'll keep it medium for now. Large would take up this entire section, and small would be the size of the text here. So we can see over 25% are in these 3 states, and sure enough, they light up well on the map. Back to the text that I've prepared. I want to add a section that says, hey, where are the people that live in mobile homes? I know the homes themselves are here, but I'm curious about the people. So I'm going to add a title section and say, where are the people who live in mobile homes? Now let's add an immersive map. I've got another web map created called Population Living in Mobile Homes. And I can add some text that will fly up as the user scrolls down. So I'm going to say, Los Angeles is a hot spot of people living in mobile homes. And then to create that guided narrative that Jen mentioned earlier, we can actually duplicate this. An easy way to do that is here, that copy button, or we could add another web map of our choice. So now here we're working in this second iteration of the same web map. Zoom in to Los Angeles, and the way I've set this web map up is that there's a scale dependency on it. So once you zoom in far, you get the counts to show up. And let's set that right there. And again, we can say almost every census tract has a mobile home park in LA.
And so, do you have to be in edit mode for the scale change to take effect? The zoom in to Los Angeles?
In edit mode for the
map itself? So that when you go to the second tab, it'll zoom into Los Angeles?
Yeah, well, that's how I'm setting it up here, but I've already set the web map up so that the viewer will zoom in and bubbles, these graduated symbols appear once someone zoomed in farther. So yeah, good question. And then we can remove this last section. We didn't need it. All right, let's add a little bit more. We've got some text here that talks about the increase in mobile homes, because budgets for affordable housing have been slashed. The private sector has offered affordable housing, mostly in the form of these mobile homes, but they're vulnerable, and that's the main topic we want to get across. Mobile homes are vulnerable. We've got some city policies that make mobile homes vulnerable, and we can change this heading by using these heading settings. 1 is very big, 2 is smaller. And then financial policies, same thing. Let's make this header size 2 as well. Another title section. What are some policy options? We can say policy options to increase security for mobile home residents. Narrative text, and here we go. 4 different policy options. We can bold different parts if we like. So that the reader goes to a different section, or the reader's eye will be drawn to that section. And then finally, we mentioned to make it personal, why should I care, or what can I do? And there's a great organization called Rock USA. I want to link to them, actually. So why don't I find this link so that people can find out more information. I'm going to get that link here and include it in my story map. There we go. And you can add credits, explore more, maybe links to the web map, etc. Let's save this. So now we've got all the basic material in here. We want to style this a little bit better. It's always good to use 2 or 3 colors at most in a story map, and you guys probably have branding colors from your organization that you would use in this story map. So far, it's looking like this is going to be an orangish gold type of story map. So why don't we look for a background image for our title sections that's orange or gold? We can go to Unsplash, and instead of searching for a subject matter, we'll search for a color and see what we get. I kind of like this one. And you get the picture.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. Now we can view this in viewer mode. We can add different settings. Let's add some bookmarks. I want to call this one population. Let's call this one policies. And then this one, policy options. And finally, what can I do? And these bookmarks now appear at the top up here, so we can skip to different sections very easily. And our viewers can do the same thing. You may have noticed that the low birth weight one that you saw was on a light background, just like this one, whereas Jen's was on a dark background. We can change that here in the appearance setting. If we go to the dark background, all the text changes to white, and in fact, this is a good opportunity to maybe color some text. So because I'm using orange and gold, let me find the hex value here with my Chrome extension, copy that, get out of there. All right, now I want to make this text that gold color using that same hex value. And I can do a similar thing down here with those 3 states. Let's save. And if you have a title section that you don't want to call too much attention to, one trick is to just add a black background for your picture. And so on my desktop, I actually have a secret stash of these black backgrounds, or white backgrounds, black backgrounds, the whole thing.
So that's just a black JPEG or PNG.
Exactly, exactly. And then we can alter the settings as we like. That looks nice. So it's a title section, but it's really kind of under this main title section. So just different things you can play around with and experiment. Then lastly, I just want to show you some of the settings over here. Currently, this is shared privately. We could share it with our organization, or we could share it publicly. Let's go ahead and share it publicly. And then when we do that, this share option becomes available. We get a short link. We can embed it within our own organization's web page or news article. We can use social media, and we can print it. This was something that a lot of our customers requested, being able to print Cascade story maps to PDF. And so we listened and we added that feature. If you want to print to PDF, you get some different options. Yeah, we want to make all the text black, even though it's a black background on our screen. And we've got the section 1, section 2, etc. This is what it will look like when we print to PDF. And so you can actually leave that with the staffers at your office, like this gentleman asked earlier. And the other share options are obviously the social media ones, the HTML code for embedding, and we can actually go ahead and tweet this live, since we just built this story map in about 15 minutes or so. Esri, you see. Cool. Yeah, so once you have all the web maps made, you have the text finalized and researched, it really takes no time at all to put together a nice looking story map, and there it is, out for the world to see. Where this lives in your content is, let me get back to the content. It's called a web mapping application. So we've got feature layers, we've got web maps, web mapping application, and we can see that it's shared with everyone and all the same information you can see however you like. Once you've done a really good job, you've finalized it, you should always fill out the item details page. So create a nice looking thumbnail, a summary, description, credits, and this will help people to understand and know what this is about. It'll help you understand and know what it's about in your own content environment as well. And it's shared with everyone. If we share this on social media, which I'll also do, this one is social media ready. So Twitter's going to pick up that this is my summary, this is my thumbnail. And so when I tweet this one, it'll actually look really nice on Twitter as opposed to the one without the item details page. Esri, you see full item details page. So we have some additional resources for you guys, some blog posts and some help pages that we've linked to when these PowerPoint slides become available in the conference proceedings. And we now want to open it up for Q&A. Any questions?
I think you did a really great job building that story map, and I'm very impressed that it only took 15 minutes to build, so well done. So are you guys going to go out and build story maps and policy maps? Yeah.
I see one question and then two. Yes?
Okay, so with Web App Builder, there's a developer edition where you can deploy apps to your server. Is there anything similar for story maps where you can host your story map on your own server?
Yes, you can host your story map on your own server, and what's great about that is if you go to GitHub, all the developers have open code for all these story maps, so you can modify them as much as you want if you have if you are a developer, if you have a developer on staff. Yeah.
Yeah, it is within ArcGIS Online. It won't show up as an item, but it's stored almost in the background. You can add images as items if you want to use them as symbology, for example. But if, say, that black background that I used, if I want to use that again, I can search for it in the... Here, let me go back to the building.
So the question was, when you upload a picture from your desktop, does it get stored in ArcGIS Online?
Yeah. So here, if I wanted to add in a picture, this story right here, all the images and maps and all kinds of content, they're there already, but they're not saved as actual items in your ArcGIS Online. So you only have to upload things like this once per story.
Yeah, good question.
And to clarify, those are embedded, that's not linked.
Right.
Yes.
They're not. The question was, is this embedded or not linked?
Let's say
it's embedded.
A changing map, is there an option network location?
Yeah, these web maps, if I were to make a change in the web map, or maybe it's updated automatically, like a weather map or something, you will see all the changes come through in your story map. You don't have to do anything to change it, because this is calling to those web maps. Mm-hmm. Yes?
Does that consume credits on your online account to create that in ArcGIS Online?
No.
No, only storage credits.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But not analysis credits or anything like that.
Oh, yeah.
So, can you also do this online, or we can just export it as PDF?
The question is, can you only view these story maps online, or can we export it as a PDF? So, do you want to go? It's on yours.
Oh, yeah. Here we can print to PDF using that print option.
So,
And there are different settings we can choose, like the link that I set for that Rock USA organization, that in a PDF or even a paper printing situation. Here it shows the link. So there's different ways that you can alter the PDF, but definitely Story Map Journal was the first one to do the print to PDF option, and now it's in Cascade as well.
I think every conference people ask, can we print with Cascade? And so we knock on the developer's door, can we add this to the functionality?
Mm-hmm.
So they've added it. Yeah.
So can you use the shortcut control V option for this too, or do you have to look for this?
I'm not sure. I think you have to click on the share button and hit print, and it'll take you to this interface. Control P would be part of your browser, and it wouldn't look as nice as this one.
Let me try a Control P here and see what I get. Oh, well, I'm in editor mode. Yeah, I think Control P would be browser specific, and they've made this print to PDF option really easy and nice looking, so I would definitely recommend to use this one.
Like that checkbox on the bottom, replace live media with image if available. If you're using a video and you want to print it, you can replace for the print option with a static photo.
Got it. Okay. I didn't know what that meant, actually.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've seen very, very long story maps, and I haven't had a problem with them. The only problem is that they're too long. So it's not a browser limitation, it's a reader limitation. Yes. I use Chrome. A lot of people use Safari and Firefox. I'm not sure how well it does on Explorer, but I've never had an issue.
Yeah, I use Firefox, and it's been fine. Mm-hmm.
So when you set up the bookmarks that went to the top tab, you put them elsewhere, like on the side, maybe, since you're scrolling, it kind of makes sense to put them in an order.
You can on the server edition. If you have a server, you can host the story map on your server and manipulate the code to move the bookmarks. But in this editor mode, it's only at the top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
Once you publish a map, how is it possible to track the use of
The story map? Here in the Settings and Usage tab, just like any other ArcGIS Online item like web maps, if it's shared publicly, you'll get these usage reports that you can see a peak or a valley in your usage. Yes?
You had mentioned two of the styles, the Cascade and the other. There seems to be several styles. What's your guidance in why you chose those two to highlight?
The story map journal and the Cascade, which you've seen today, really do allow for a lot of great text and pictures. The other ones are much more focused on the map, like that tabbed series one. It's a tab setting across, but they're always going to be maps or images. They don't allow for one continuous guided narrative. It's almost like, okay, we've got 4 or 5 different situations that we want to highlight right here, which might be the point. You can actually also, one trick is that you can actually embed like a tabbed story map or a story map tour within a Cascade. So I wasn't planning to show this, but I can navigate to an example of that. Let me get back to my
And while she finds
content.
an example, let me know when you find an example.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is an example of a map journal, very similar to the Cascade. The map journal came before the Cascade, so you are not scrolling, you can scroll here. There's more tabs on the buttons on the side. You can put it on the right side or the left side. Now, this is map journal, and the way you can tell what kind of app it is, you look at the URL, and it tells you map journal. This one is a Cascade. This one is a map series, which is the tab story map. So this one's using the accordion style on the side, which you can add more tabs to it.
Yeah, so here's another map journal that I made, and just like the other one Jen showed, we've got this side panel here, and one of these is actually an embedded tab series. We've got occupations that are particularly vulnerable to extreme heat, and we've got 4 of them: farming, fishing, and forestry, construction, manufacturing, and food prep. And this is just one section within the larger story map journal. And then we can go on to our next map that we're showing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, whenever we embed a story map within a story map, or within another story map, we call it story map inception or story map turducken. Anyone heard of a turducken? It's like a duck in a chicken. It's stuffed inside of a turkey and people eat it. Any? Yeah. What kind of so the question is, can we navigate how to add backgrounds to the story map? Do you want to show the edit mode of the Cascade and show how to add a background? So a background image or map or video. You can embed a live URL to a website. Actually embed the website. I used to work with a nonprofit art organization in Los Angeles, and they couldn't afford someone to build their website, so they used the Cascade as their main nonprofit website. So that's one option. So for backgrounds.
Yeah. Oh, geez.
Oh, here. Do you need some juice?
I charged it all last night, so I don't know. Oh, it was the projector.
Yeah, so while that charges up.
Okay.
So let's go into the edit mode. Another trick is in your Cascades, you can do ampersand edit at the end. Another trick is ampersand autoplay. This is a fun one. If you're standing at a booth, for example, it can play in the background for you, or you can send this URL to somebody. Or instead of ampersand embed, what you can do is share. Let me remove autoplay mode. You go to the share button and you select autoplay mode and then click open on that share link, and it's automatically going to be added to the end. So the question, do you want me to show it on this one? I'll show it on this one. How to add background. So this Celebrating Women's Rights I created for International Women's Day, and you can change the appearance of the text here. And all I did was I hit the edit button on the bottom left. And then you can change the background. How does it look on someone's mobile device when it's landscape or portrait? So you move this slider button, and if someone's using a portrait mode on their phone, this is what they're going to see. And then you can manage the media by adding your image from your desktop, from your story, from Flickr, Google+, Unsplash is our personal favorite, and then you can link to a content. So currently this is linking to an image on imgur.com, at a hosting image site. You can also add a video from Vimeo or YouTube, so it will be moving in the background. And that interface is the same everywhere you go in your story map. You add the media and you pick between many different options.
Yeah, well, we're coming right up on 9:30, so
that was fast.
We'll stick around here for questions as we're packing up. But thank you guys so much for coming, and I hope you learned something today.
Thank you.